Durable medical equipment is so confusing. And I don't want to say you're an expert at this, but you do have a lot of experience, right?
I do. I used to bill durable medical equipment. For a couple of years, I worked and I billed a lot of Medicare for hospital beds, wheelchairs, canes, anything you can think of durable medical equipment. I've billed it.
Awesome. I'm so excited that you're able to help us with this. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 2 decades now, and I still come to you constantly for questions because this is a really, really confusing topic.
It is. It is very confusing.
Yeah. So thank you again, Leslie, for
You're
helping me
welcome.
out with this. And then we're going to go into a little bit more detail about what it is. But what we're going to cover on this webinar is what is durable medical equipment? How do we save money on it? How do we make sure that it's billed properly? All the tricks and trades that you're going to share with us, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So why don't you start us off with explaining what exactly it is?
Okay, what is durable medical equipment? Well, it is medically necessary equipment. It must be prescribed by a physician, and it's necessary for treatment. So, for an example of one of these things is oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've had in the past many times I've received a prescription for oxygen, but the diagnosis is pneumonia. We know that pneumonia is temporary. So Medicare is not going to cover oxygen for a temporary issue. Now, if someone was to have COPD, emphysema, congestive heart failure, those are more of a permanent medical necessity thing. Now they're going to cover it for those items, but not something that's temporary.
That's really interesting because how many people do you think know that? And like, do even doctors know that sometimes when they write these prescriptions?
It's hard to speak for a doctor, but considering the amount of prescriptions that we had received in the past from doctors that said pneumonia as a diagnosis, but that's what our job was, is to get back hold of the doctor and say, hey, if they have something permanent, you need to send that for us. So that way Medicare won't deny. And that's one of the things, you don't want Medicare denying you've got the equipment. Now you're going to get a full bill 100% because Medicare denied because it was a temporary health issue.
Yeah.
Also, the things have to be, some of the durable medical equipment is primarily used in the home. They usually don't cover outside the home, especially special circumstances. So like wheelchair ramps, just different things like that. Reusable, like disposable medical supplies. And most of the DME is intended for long-term use, unless, of course, it's like your catheters and things like that. So,
okay. So biggest takeaway there is this has to be permanent or very long-term and things that's durable. Like it's going to last for a long time.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So some common examples. What does Medicare actually cover for this?
Well, Medicare covers your wheelchairs, walkers, some scooters. It has to be billed correctly, crutches, hospital beds, the adjustable beds. They cover the mattresses once a year, bed lifts, respiratory equipment like your CPAP machines, your BiPAP machines, some of your nebulizers, your oxygen concentrators, ventilators, and some monitoring devices. So your blood sugar monitors, infusion pumps, and your nebulizers. I spoke a little soon. But keep in mind, a lot of people think the blood sugar monitors are billed under a drug plan. However, they're not. They are billed as Part B, which is going to be durable medical equipment.
Yeah, so two things I want to pick up from that of what you just said. One is the diabetic supplies that you just talked about. We see this all the time. People go to the pharmacy, they will try to get like their some of their diabetic supplies, and they're being charged pretty high bills for it. Whereas if they would go through a durable medical equipment facility, not a pharmacy, they'd probably maybe even be down to $0.
Exactly. And it's all because they just are going to assume it's billed under a drug plan, which it is not. And that's where they're going to be, you hear them complain, oh, I had to pay this much. Why did someone else pay less? Well, 9 times out of 10, that is the reason why, is because they went through and got it at the pharmacy rather than a durable medical equipment company.
Yeah. Fascinating. I feel like that's an hour-long webinar just on that we can do. So I'm going to add that in.
Yes.
Also, let's talk about too, like you talk about walkers. So I know something really popular that people like instead of walkers are those rollators.
Yes.
But that presents a whole different issue with billing, right?
That does, because Medicare generally only covers one wheelchair, walker, hospital bed, certain items, one every 5 years. Okay. So if somebody is prescribed a walker from their physician, they are going to get a standard walker, like the standard regular walker that everyone normally gets. The rollator walkers are not considered standard. Those are like a specialty walker. Okay. So if somebody wanted one of those, the prescription has to state walker with 4 wheels, brakes, and seat. Or Medicare, they're not going to cover it. Also, if you get a standard walker and maybe within the next year you decide, oh, I want one of those rollators, Medicare's not going to cover it because they already covered one walker and it's been within 5 years.
I feel like this is a really good time for you to give your tips about why people should hold on to this equipment.
Well, that is one of the reasons, is because Medicare does only cover a lot of these items once per 5 years. So a lot of people may need a wheelchair temporarily. Say they only used it for 6 months. Maybe they had issues with a hip replacement. So then when they're done, they're like, oh, free wheelchair giveaway. Well, then say something happens in the next couple of years and you need that again. Medicare already paid for it. They're not going to pay for it again if it's been less than 5 years. So it's very important to store those things for future, because you do not know if you're going to need it again within 5 years.
Yeah. And we see this literally every week, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. And I tell people, you got a garage, you got a storage, you got a basement, please store it. Do not get rid of it.
Yeah. It's one of those things I don't think anyone knows or understands they have to do that. So
yes. Well, on this, we're going to talk about how Medicare coverage for DME works. So how Medicare pays. Medicare Part B covers 80% of the cost that is approved DME after a beneficiary, of course, has met their annual Part B deductible. So the remaining 20% is the beneficiary's responsibility unless they have additional coverage. Some DME is rented, and a lot of people don't realize that, rather than purchased up front. So Medicare determines, it's going to depend on the insurance. So some things may be billed as a rental, kind of like a rent-to-owns, what I call it. So it could be like a 13-month rental for a wheelchair. So they're going to bill you for 13 months. And after 13 months, you own that wheelchair. So that's what I said. A lot of people don't realize that either until if they have no additional coverage for Medicare and they receive like a bill every month for 13 months. They're like, what in the heck? I thought I already paid for my wheelchair. No, it's billed as a rental.
Is there any reason, I mean, you may not know this answer, but is there a reason why some stuff is rented and some stuff is purchased?
Well, with original Medicare, sometimes within that 13-month rental, you can return the equipment. So say you only had to have it for a couple of months, you can return the equipment, and then the DME would mark it as returned, the billing would stop, so then Medicare would know. But once you went with the full length of the rental, then it's paid for. So then it's yours.
That's like a huge thing that people should know, that if they're renting something, don't return it month 11. You own it at that point.
Yeah, your interest is already paid that much. You might as well just keep it.
Oh, so much to learn here. Again, that's another like 45-minute webinar we could do.
Yes. And here's some of the long-term rentals for DME. So a lot of people don't realize the difference between the equipment. It's different equipment, has different rental periods. Medicare covers 80% cost on all the equipment, but it's going to come down to the length of time that you have the equipment.
Okay.
Oxygen most generally is always billed as a 36-month rental. A lot of people do not know this. So it's billed continuously for 36 months. Once you hit the 36-month mark, what it does is it goes into what is called a maintenance mode. So that means the DME carrier will still maintain it. You can still get your portables. You can still get your tubing. If something happens to your machine, they'll still service it. But then after your 2 years of maintenance hits, it's coming up at your 5-year mark. Well, you know what that means. You've bought the machine. So now for you to continue, because they can no longer bill to continue getting your tubing, your portables, you now have to go back to the doctor. You have to do your testing again to see if you qualify for oxygen again, and then start the whole process over. Get a prescription. They come take your old machine out, put a new machine in, and the whole 36-month rental starts over. A lot of people do not know that.
Yeah, I mean, I know we get phone calls about it all the time, and I'm just like, talk to Leslie, because it's so complicated.
Yes, I've had people come, I've come across people and they told me, they said, well, they quit paying for our portables. We couldn't get any. So we went and found and bought a portable machine, like an Inogen. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, how long have you had your equipment? Once I find out it's like at the 5 years, I said, it's because you need to requalify. Call your doctor. And they're so excited because now they can get another portable. And they're like, I just paid $1,500 for that. And I was like, yeah. I was like, and you could have avoided it. But people don't know this. That's why it's important to work with professionals like us that really sit down and help you one-on-one. We know your situation. We're going to make sure that you're taken care of.
Yeah. And like, to hop in on that too, like that's such a great thing about the team that we have, because all of us have different expertise in different departments. Yeah. Like you're a DME person. We have another person who is a diabetic person. Like we have people who really know these, and we don't have to know everything because we have a team behind us.
Yes. And we're always at each other's fingertips. Like if we have a question, we are in our group and we have an answer within like minutes. And that's what's amazing about working with just us. Yes, me too. So some of the Medicare coverage, a lot of people ask about this because there are a lot of people that have suffered through breast cancer and had to have, their breast removed and aren't sure how Medicare works with coverage for things with this, for your prosthetics. Medicare does cover the silicone breast forms. So Medicare covers 1 every 2 years for a single mastectomy patients, or 2 every 2 years for bilateral mastectomy patients. Mm-hmm. They also will cover your foam breast forms. That includes 1 prosthesis every 6 months for single, and of course 2 every 6 months for bilateral. And then they do also cover the nipple prosthesis. I couldn't say that. Covered as part as the post-mastectomy prosthesis. A lot of times people just need to have it prescribed, and they need to go to a durable medical equipment that accepts Medicare, or if they're on a different kind of Medicare, just to make sure that the DME is in network.
So I want to go off a little topic on this a little bit. Yes. You were very adamant that you wanted this slide added in because we didn't originally have this. Yes. Explain why this was so important to you that this be included.
Well, there's several reasons. I mean, I've come across several clients that have had breast cancer, and for them to come and they're like, they've went without or had trouble trying to get these things, and it's just heartbreaking to me because as a female, this, of course, should not be an issue. Mm-hmm. Then also I've had my own issues with breast cancer scares. And if I was ever in this position, I want to make sure that people know this is available so they're not struggling. They cover your bras as well, your mastectomy bras. So I wanted this very I wanted this out there because there's so many people that have suffered from breast cancer and had to have both breast or one breast removed. And they don't realize that Medicare covers this.
Yeah. And how often do you think this comes up to where breast cancer survivors or people going through breast cancer don't know about this? I mean, is it pretty common?
Several times it's come across. Some were just for the fact they were going to a DME that did not accept their insurance.
Got it.
And once I explained it to them, their face was like, so I struggled and paid full price because I just, and I really hate that because it doesn't matter if it's for breast cancer or any durable medical equipment that you need, you don't need to be paying more than what you need to. So it's important to work with someone who can make sure your DME is covered with your insurance.
Thank you so much for that. I know that was really important, so I want to give you space to go over that.
Thank you. So, are you going to want to tackle this one or me?
Yeah, I can. I'll try. You might want to jump in and help me out here. But as you were saying, there's some stuff that you rent, there's some stuff that you buy, and then there's some stuff just one-time purchase. So that's going to be like canes, crutches, braces, things like that, prosthetics, artificial limbs, monitoring devices. And this is what you were just talking about, like those diabetic supplies, whether it's the test strips. Some of them have the internal monitoring, the actual, I can't think of what they're called, but
they have to have, some of them have sensors that have to be replaced every so often as well. And those are billed under Part B. So yes.
Thanks for saving me on that one, Leslie.
Yeah, I knew what you were saying.
And then nebulizers and oxygen, the things like that, not the oxygen, but nebulizers. So, and those are just going to be a one-time purchase.
Yes. So nebulizers, though, one thing I want to throw out there, it can be tricky because it's going to depend on the insurance. Because sometimes nebulizers are billed as a 13-month rental, and you can only get one through insurance one every 5 years. Some insurance pays for them up front outright. So it's going to depend, again, on the insurance.
Okay. Good point. And again, if people have questions, they can just call us and we'll walk them through it.
Absolutely.
So this is something really important to know. Original Medicare is going to pay for things different than Medicare Advantage is going to pay for them. So original Medicare is going to be 80%, and then the 20% is going to be up to the client. And hopefully they have secondary insurance like a Medigap to cover it. Sorry, I had a hiccup. And then Medicare Advantage is different rules, different copays. Every single Medicare Advantage is going to bill slightly different.
Correct.
And then they're responsible for not only the 20%, but they have to make sure they are in network.
Yes.
So there's not going to be as much of a network. There is a slight network with approved vendors under the original Medicare, but there's like a legitimate network with Medicare Advantage.
Correct. And, Medicare Advantage, I will say they do have a pretty big network of DME suppliers. I know in West Virginia, now in other states, I can't speak for that, but Ohio and West Virginia, they have a pretty big network to choose from.
Yeah, it's not a huge problem for the most part. So where I was just talking about is original Medicare doesn't really have a network. They kind of do have a network. This is what we're talking about. So I'm going to let you talk on this.
Yeah, because they have to have approved suppliers. Medicare will pay the DME for approved suppliers. Just because you go and throw a DME sign on your business doesn't mean you're approved with Medicare. Also, there's a supplier directory. That's where, we come in handy. A lot of times you're going to get a sales agent over the phone. They're not going to pull up your directory in your area because you don't even know who you're talking to or where they're located. So I always ask people, do you have a CPAP? Do you have oxygen? Do you have this? And then I want to say, well, let's look in your area where the local DME is. And if you're looking at plans, let's make sure that they are covered because that is something we always do. You know that. They have reimbursements, so non-approved suppliers will not be reimbursed by Medicare, so you are going to pay pretty much full price. So it's, you're not going to like it if you're going to have to pay full price, and that's happened a lot just because they weren't with an approved supplier. And there are set prices by Medicare. A lot of people don't realize that. If a company wants to bill you $500 for your oxygen, but Medicare only approves $140, there's a big difference. So that's something that people need to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, I would say the two things that we see a lot is someone goes to a place that's either not in network or not an approved supplier. They don't tell the client this, and then the client gets a fat bill. And yeah.
And it's important. Sorry to interrupt, but it's important. If somebody has medical equipment and it's being billed as a rental, so say you're on oxygen, it's being billed as a 36-month rental, and in between that, you go switching insurance. You have to remember to update that with the DME, because they're going to be billing your old insurance. They're going to decline. Then you're going to get a big bill in the mail and not understand why. Because that's one thing people forget, is to turn in their insurance updated with the DMEs.
Yeah. And then that's huge. That's, again, a 45-minute webinar we can do.
In itself, yes.
But then that set price, we see that a lot, to where they get really upset because they're like, what's this extra bill? And it's Medicare won't cover all that. So
yeah, I had a lady call me when I worked for a DME company before, and soon as I answered the phone, she said, I didn't know I had to pay for the air I breathe. And I said, let me guess, you've got a bill for your oxygen. She goes, yeah. And I mean, it wasn't that expensive. It was around $30, but to her, it was very expensive, especially someone on a limited income. And no one had to ever explain to her that she was going to have a 20% copay on that rental. So yes, got a lot of those phone calls.
Yes. All right, so let's just kind of quickly go through this, just strategies. I don't have this on here, but can we say strategy number one is to work with a company that has someone like you that can help guide them through this?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Because if you're not working with a great agency, independent agents that really go in depth and get this taken care of for you, you don't know what you have. So you don't know how you're going to be billed until you get that bill, and then you're not going to be happy. And good luck getting them on the phone at the 1-800 number.
Seriously.
I know.
And this isn't something most agents know anyways, because it's so complicated.
It is. It's a lot. I mean, a lot of agents, we know how Medicare works, A through Z, but these little tidbits on billing, little tweaks, a lot of them do not know how that exactly works. So it just comes really in handy. It's handy that I actually done that before I started selling insurance and helping people with insurance. I build insurance. So
yes, very handy.
Understanding of it. Yes.
So some other quick facts. If you're on Medicare Advantage, always check first, because one, they're going to have networks, and then they have a lot of extra programs sometimes that people that will cover those supplies better, because a lot of those Medicare Advantage plans will have something built in to help you stay healthier longer, and so they will cover things differently.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Explore local assistance programs if you're struggling. There are lots of nonprofits and for-profits and places that have medical equipment available or that can assist with those copays.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't just call. Oh, sorry.
No, I was saying, and some, assistant nonprofits have those equipment, donated to them. So if someone can't afford maybe the copay to get one, has already got one, but got rid of it, they can go there and hopefully get a wheelchair or a walker or a bed.
Yeah. I mean, that's like one of the things, like we have,
yes,
we are a vendor for, not just us retirement, but within our office, we have Bringing Back the Village.
Yes, that's
In the
huge.
same building, which we're really lucky with, because they will donate brand new rollators, wheelchairs, things like that. And those are not cheap to get.
No, and you do not want to see around me right now of what they've donated, because I'm packed full. I am packed to the ceiling. So yes, and it's very amazing because, you know, we are just blessed with Bringing Back the Village and those vendors, because, you know, we're able to give back to the community, and that's what's important. And that's why you created it.
Yes.
Because we are trying to help people, be a village, help those in need. Because if you're not out there helping people, you know, to me, that's my why.
Yeah.
So that's my purpose as well. That's why we get along so well.
Yes. And then the last little tip, don't just call one DME place, right? Like, call around. Prices may be different. The networks, you know, call
the network definitely is going to be different, but here's one thing that I forgot to mention is the number one call that we get is lift chairs. Lift chairs. Does Medicare cover lift chairs? Well, technically, yes, but they do not cover the entire lift chair. They only can reimburse for what the cost of the motor that lifts the chair. So they don't actually cover the whole chair. And a lot of people get upset with that because they just assume that Medicare is going to pay for it, even if it's medically necessary. Medicare doesn't see it as medically necessary. So they're not going to cover. They will reimburse for the mechanism, which is around $150, $200, but that is it. And those chairs can run $1,000, $1,500. So if you come across one of those, do not get rid of it. Even if you just need it temporary, do not get rid of it, because they're expensive, and most people have to just pay completely out of pocket. Unless
we get people all the time that call us that want to donate them and donate their hospital beds, and I'm like, oh, please don't, like, please keep them. You don't know how expensive. So
absolutely.
Leslie, I want to thank you so much for doing this. I think it's going to help a lot of people, and I'm so lucky to have you on the team. And thank you for spending time this morning going over this with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, have a wonderful day and hope you learned something. Bye.